today's video, we're going to be ranking the 2012 NHL Draft top 10 picks. This draft was one of the more weaker drafts in recent memory, and the top 10 all really didn't live up to expectations, minus a couple. So here's a look at how the original draft went. Yakupov went first to the Oilers, Ryan Murray went second to the Blue Jackets, Galchenyuk went third to the Montreal Canadiens, Griffin Reinhart went fourth to the New York Islanders, Morgan Rielly went fifth to the Toronto Maple Leafs, Hampus Lindholm went sixth to the Anaheim Ducks, Matthew Dumba went seventh to the Minnesota Wild, Derrick Pouliot went eighth to the Pittsburgh Penguins, Jacob Trouba went 9th to the Winnipeg Jets, and Slater Koekkoek went 10th to the Tampa Bay Lightning. At number 10 is Griffin Reinhart, taken 4th overall by the New York Islanders when they were in desperate need of a defenseman, and it really is unfortunate for the team that this draft pick didn't work out for them because there is still really in desperate need of a solid top defenseman. He's only 24 years old, so he still has time to turn it around, but obviously he still isn't with the New York Islanders organization. He's played in 37 games, has 0 goals, 2 assists for 2 points. He's currently playing with the Chicago Wolves of the American Hockey League, and it's really up in the air on how many more chances this guy is going to get to crack an NHL roster. Obviously, he didn't succeed in New York, he didn't play well in Edmonton, and he didn't play well in Vegas. And usually, when people went to Vegas this season, they all played fantastic, they all made the most of their opportunity. But Griffin Reinhart was an exception to that, as he did not crack the roster, and he's currently in the American Hockey League where he had a decent season. He was a plus 20, so that's good maybe for his confidence, and maybe next year he gets another opportunity to crack an NHL lineup, as he's only 24, but I think his time is certainly running out. At number 9 is Slater Koekkoek, originally drafted 10th overall by the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's played in 76 games, has 4 goals, and 9 assists for 13 points. He really hasn't lived up to expectations and been what the Tampa Bay Lightning wanted him to be. Back when they drafted him, they were in desperate need of a defenseman. Obviously, times have changed, and they have one of the best defensive cores in the entire NHL right now. Slater Koekkoek did play a decent amount of NHL games this year, and he's at number 9 ahead of Reinhart because he's still playing with the team that drafted him. He's still getting some time in the NHL, and I still think maybe next year he can get a full-time job for some team. I think he can be a solid bottom pairing guy. He's a physical dude, and he has a pretty well-rounded offensive game as well. Being drafted, he had comparisons to Morgan Rielly, who was drafted ahead of him, but obviously Rielly has been the better of the two. But Slater Koekkoek hasn't been absolutely garbage, but he really just hasn't lived up to what the Tampa Bay Lightning expected him to be when they drafted him with their 10th pick. At number 8 is Derrick Pouliot of the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was taken 8th overall in the 2012 draft by the Penguins. 138 games, 5 goals, and 31 assists for 36 points. He hasn't really been much at all for the Pittsburgh Penguins, as he's currently playing for the Vancouver Canucks. So for this pick for the Penguins, it was kind of a bust. But Derrick Pouliot has been a full-time NHLer this season with the Vancouver Canucks, so that is good to see. He's still young, he still has room to grow and develop into a full-time NHL guy, and he's a player I think like Slater Koekkoek can be a solid bottom pairing defenseman on a couple teams in the NHL. So Derrick Pouliot, I still think he is good enough to be in the NHL. I don't think he's an AHL defenseman, maybe on some teams, but for most teams, well, a lot of teams are in desperate need of a defenseman, and I think on a lot of teams this guy could be a very solid bottom pairing defenseman. Obviously didn't work out well for the Pittsburgh Penguins, as he's not even playing for them anymore, but he's been decent for the Vancouver Canucks this past season. At number 7 is Nail Yakupov, the guy taken 1st overall by the Edmonton Oilers, and he really did turn out to be a bust with the 1st overall pick. He's still playing in the NHL, but as a bottom 6 forward. He has some good offensive skill, but it's really up in the air if he's going to get much more opportunity to play with skilled guys. He's played in 350 games and has 62 goals and 74 assists for 136 points. He had a decent rookie season for the Edmonton Oilers in that lockout-shortened year, but after that, it really did all go downhill. He didn't have much talent around him at his time in Edmonton. I think if he was there with Connor McDavid, we'd be saying a different story. He's currently playing a bottom 6 role for the Colorado Avalanche, and he was okay for them this season as a bottom 6 guy, a decent one. But I really do want to see this guy succeed, and obviously he isn't old by any means, so he can still maybe succeed if he's given a chance by an NHL club, but it's kind of up in the air. I really don't think he's going to get much more opportunity to be a top scoring option on really any team in the NHL, so it does suck that he didn't really work out, but he still does have a little bit of time in my opinion. At number 6 is Ryan Murray, originally drafted 2nd overall by the Blue Jackets. He's played in 264 games and has 12 goals and 60 assists for 72 points, and he really has been kind of snake-bitten by injuries and concussions so far throughout his career, and that really is something that has held him back from being a superstar guy. He was in my video for recent draft busts just because I really do think with the second overall pick, if you were to go back to redo this draft, the Columbus Blue Jackets would certainly make a different decision and take someone else other than Ryan Murray, as he's been a guy that has kind of not played a lot of minutes. He's been kind of a depth defenseman on their team instead of a top defenseman that they really did want him to be. Obviously, they do have their top two defensemen right now in Werenski and Jones, so that kind of does take pressure off of Murray, and maybe if he stays healthy, he can have a breakout season next year. I do want to see him do well. It just sucks with all the injuries that have happened to him so far throughout his career. At number 5 is Jacob Trouba of the Winnipeg Jets, and he's been decent so far. Drafted 9th overall, 326 games, 34 goals, and 95 assists for 129 points. And he's a guy I think had his best season this year. You know, there was drama of him wanting to get out of Winnipeg earlier on in his career, but now that I think he's being used as a top defenseman and an important piece to a team that really could be competing for a Stanley Cup in the next couple of years, I think he is much more happy with the situation he's in now than he was in 2 years ago. So that's awesome to see. I really hope they can get him inked up long term, and I really do hope he stays with the Jets, as I think that's the best scenario for him, as obviously he doesn't have too much pressure on him because there are other fantastic defensemen there like Josh Morrissey, and then you have Dustin Byfuglien, of course, and Jacob Trouba is a guy that can really just complement them all very well. So it's nice to see that the drama is behind him in Winnipeg, and they really are starting to probably be very happy with picking Jacob Trouba 9th overall. At number 4, I have Hampus Lindholm of the Anaheim Ducks. He's played in 371 games, has 42 goals, and 101 assists for 143 points. He was drafted 6th overall by the Ducks, and I have him one spot ahead of Jacob Trouba just because I think he's been the more consistent out of the two so far throughout their career, and obviously Jacob Trouba having that drama earlier on. Hampus Lindholm has just been really reliable and solid throughout his whole career, and I really do think Jacob Trouba could pass Hampus Lindholm on this list as soon as next season. But as of right now, I would put him a little bit behind him, a notch behind him. If you were to ask me who I would want on my team for the future, I think I would choose Jacob Trouba, as I think he's kind of coming into his own, maturing, and becoming a better player. But if I'm ranking careers, which I'm doing right now, I really do have to give Hampus Lindholm the slight edge just because of how consistent and reliable he's been for an Anaheim Ducks team that has always been contending and been a playoff team with Hampus Lindholm on the roster. At number 3 is Matthew Dumba. He was originally drafted 7th overall by the Minnesota Wild. He's played in 310 games and has 44 goals and 84 assists for 128 points, and he's been really good so far in my opinion. I kind of think he's been unfairly recognized by the media and saying that he's not lived up to expectations, and I really think he has. He's kind of flown under the radar, as there has been a lot of defensemen drafted in this draft, and in my opinion, out of all of them besides Morgan Rielly, he's had the most pressure on him to succeed in his situation, and I really do think he's been living up to the hype, especially this past season, a season that really did go under the radar. He played fantastic in my opinion in the playoffs against the Winnipeg Jets, and he really did keep them a fighting chance in that series, as he played a lot of minutes with Ryan Suter injured, and I think he really is the future of the blue line for this team. So right now I think Minnesota has to be so happy with having Matthew Dumba and ultimately choosing to keep him locked up in the expansion draft. It was either him or Eric Holla, and I really do think they made the right choice, as Matthew Dumba is the defenseman of their future once Ryan Suter decides to leave or hangs them up, as he's kind of declining right now, and Matthew Dumba is certainly on the rise. At number 2 is Alex Galchenyuk of the Montreal Canadiens. He was taken 3rd overall. He's played in 418 games and has 108 goals and 147 assists for 255 points. And he's a guy who had a lot of pressure on him coming into Montreal, which is a market where if you don't play well and you don't succeed, you're going to get ripped up by the fans, the media, and all that. And I really think he's been unfairly treated, as well as Matthew Dumba, kind of by the media, and saying that he hasn't lived up to expectations. But putting up 255 points in 418 games so far by your 3rd overall pick is not bad whatsoever, and I still think he's only getting better. He hasn't quite been the number 1 center that they really do need him to be, but he has been a solid, reliable second scoring option for them throughout the years that he's played on the team so far, and I really do think he's going to get better, and if he can develop a two-way game, he can be a top guy in the league. He's fantastic, he has great offensive skill, so if he can stay healthy, develop a little bit of a two-way game, I think he really does have a brighter future than he's been showing so far in Montreal, which really is a tough team to play for. And at number 1, I have Morgan Rielly of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's played in 388 games and has 31 goals and 140 assists for 171 points. He was taken 5th overall, And I have him number 1 because he's been so consistent and professional and been a mature guy throughout his career. And like Montreal, Toronto is a tough team to play for. You're going to get ripped up if you don't play well. And he has been so solid in my opinion. He's just keep getting better every year. And he's an important part to this team that really is kind of weak on the blue line. And he's had so much pressure on him so far throughout his career with the team, and if they want to succeed, Morgan Rielly has to play well, and they really have been the past couple of years, and he's been playing well, the team has been playing well, and that really is why I have him at number 1, just because of all the pressure that was on him and how he's handled it. He's been fantastic while still putting up good numbers and having to play usually against the other team's top line. So I think Morgan Rielly has handled the situation that he's been in fantastically, so that is why I have him at number 1. Now it's time for my favorite part of the video, speculating and seeing where players would land if it went by my rankings and there was a redraft of the top 10. Morgan Rielly would jump 4 spots up to the Edmonton Oilers. Alex Galchenyuk would jump up a spot to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Matthew Dumba would jump up 4 spots to the Montreal Canadiens. Hampus Lindholm would jump up 2 spots to the New York Islanders. Jacob Trouba would jump up 4 spots to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Ryan Murray would drop down 4 spots to the Anaheim Ducks. Yakupov would drop down 6 spots to the Minnesota Wild. Derrick Pouliot would stay the same at number 8. Slater Koekkoek would jump up 1 spot to the Winnipeg Jets. And Griffin Reinhart would subtract 6 spots and go all the way down to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So this is kind of my favorite part of the video, just because we see where players would end up, and it's kind of fun to see how the dynamic and future of the NHL would change if these things were to happen. Ultimately, for this draft, I don't think much really would be different right now. I think we'd still have all the same top teams and stuff like that, but make sure to let me know what you guys thought about this down in the comment section. So that is going to wrap up the video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. Sorry about not uploading yesterday. The upload streak was going good. We didn't miss a day in a long time, so I thought I'd take a break, come up with some new video ideas and stuff like that, and just kind of get ready for a new streak of uploads. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please make sure to let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. Make sure to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for daily NHL content, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.